Hello and welcome to our second provider support webinar. So today we're looking at creating a course. It's a step-by-step guide. So initially, if you're just needing a quick guide that you've seen this webinar before and you just want a quick reminder, or there's just a single section that you're not sure of, there is a quick guide. So it's about 2 minutes, it's a little YouTube video, there's no sound, it's literally just a point and click. Very useful just to refresh your memory. So for that, you can see there's a link here. The link can be found on the PowerPoint that's attached to this webinar. So if you go to the webinar on the website, there'll be a PowerPoint next to it. All of the links that I'm using today are accessible through that PowerPoint. They're not accessible on the video you're watching right now. What we're going to look at today, we're going to look at the provider and course staff area quickly, and the area within that, the section that you need for this. We're going to look at the step-by-step guide for creating a course, how to add files and videos, checking course inquiries, adding the bookings, and just making sure that we're not making any of the common errors that we do see, the sort of mistakes that can have an impact on your bookings. As a provider, the first thing that you'll need to do is have a look at the provider and course staff area, and the section that we're interested in specifically is this CMS and course reporting section. So I'm going to follow this link. You can do the same in the PowerPoint, or if you've already got this as one of your bookmarks, then you can go straight there. I would recommend, if you are using the same computer on a regular basis, it's probably a good idea to bookmark this as a page. And that can be done usually in a favorites or a bookmark. It depends on your internet provider, it's different for each. So this is the section that we're interested in for this particular webinar. So we're going to have a look at CMS and course reporting. So under here, you'll find a little bit of information about things that you need to be aware of, and as well step-by-step instructions. So they're quite basic instructions here, but it should be enough just to jog your memory on what you need to do. It also has about creating course reports, which we'll discuss in the next webinar, and information that you may find useful with your courses. So this is all under CMS and course reporting in your provider and course staff area. So if I go back to my PowerPoint, timing. The sooner the better when it comes to putting courses on the system. As soon as you know that you've got your timetable in place for the next 6 months, 12 months, however you work as a provider, put the courses straight onto CMS at that point. If you know that you want to run a course and you have your dates in your calendar, also have them on CMS. The sooner they're on the system, the sooner they're available to the public, the sooner they can start booking onto the system. The same goes for closed courses as well. The sooner they're on the system, the sooner you can contact those people, let them know the course is there and that you can get the bookings on. What we do ask is that all courses must be created on CMS as soon as possible and at least 10 days in advance of the course start date. So it is the case that sometimes you will have people getting in touch close to the date that they're interested in, saying, I would like you to run this course, that course, or whatever. And it's perfectly fine for you to take up more last minute bookings, but obviously we still need you to try and stay within that 10 days. So at least 10 days in advance of the course start dates. We would then expect that candidates and participants can then get in touch with you, they can arrange their bookings and they can have everything sorted, and we would ask that you then add those bookings onto the course, which I'll show you in a moment, as soon as possible again, and to hit minimum numbers, so that varies from course to course, at least 5 days before the course start date. If you're not sure what the minimum numbers are for your particular course, that can be found in the provider and course staff area, and I'll just quickly show you where that is. So if you're in the provider and course staff area, most pages at the bottom have a back to home. So that'll take you back to the main page. But if you're wanting to check what the minimum numbers for a particular scheme is, you'll find it under scheme information. And there's going to be a lot of other information there about staffing as well, which is going to be useful to you. So for example, if we take our rock climbing instructor and we're wanting to check what are our minimum numbers. So if we're doing a training course, we must have at least 2 candidates as a minimum and 8 as a maximum. So that will help you as well in working out your staffing ratios. For example, here it says staffing ratio should be 1 member of staff to 4 candidates. So you know that if you had 5 candidates on a course, you would need more than 1 member of staff. You may choose to staff it differently in the sense that you may have more members of staff. It depends on your setup. However, these are the numbers that we as mountain training would expect to see as part of our quality assurance. Just to stress, this particular page is for rock climbing instructor only. Each scheme is different, so please do check the numbers for your particular scheme if you're not already familiar with them.
So from my personal account, there are 2 ways that I can access my courses. The first is going to be here. So it's actually called My Events, or you can create a new course using Create Events. So this is using the burger menu in the top right-hand corner. The other way to get there is using My Organizations. So this page will give you access to all of the organizations that you're connected to or have had any sort of impact on at any point. The other thing that you can see while you're on this page is My Directorships. So under the Directorships tab, you're able to see each of the directorships you have approval for. So I don't actually hold any of these approvals. I use them for admin reasons. But you can see here, potentially I could be running a rock skills, or I could be running my Lone Leader training, or whichever other scheme that is relevant at the time. So you can see here which approvals you have. It's worth having a quick check through and making sure that these are correct. If you think you should have approvals that aren't on this list, or that you have ones on here that you don't think you should be using, let us know and we can update the details. You'll also notice there's a withdrew box here. So particularly those of you that have been directors for a while and used to direct the old climbing schemes, you'll notice that those have been withdrawn from your approvals. So if I return to My Organizations and I go through to the provider account that I'm interested in, so in this case it's Cowboy Adventures. This is our test account that we use, it's not a real account. And then from here, I'm interested in creating a course. So I'm going to use the Courses tab.
So once we're in the Courses tab, if there are courses already on the system, you'll find them listed here. What I would say now is it lists from the date that you're looking at it. So today, I will see all courses in the future. If you come here and you're expecting to see courses that you know have run in the past, you need to change this start date. So for example, now I know that I have created a few courses in the last couple of weeks. So if I wanted to work on anything with those particular courses, I would be able to do that here. We're not interested in that now, we're interested in creating a course. So to create a course, you press Create.
So once you've pressed Create, it will open up onto a page that looks a little bit like this. And you can see that we are creating a course for mountain training. This is a course as opposed to a workshop, and the provider that we're working with is Cowboy Adventures. So the next step will be to choose the course that we're interested in. So be careful with the list. It tends to list the assessment before the training, so it's going in alphabetical as opposed to chronological order. So whichever one you click on, that'll then open the next set of questions. If in fact you've clicked on the wrong button, and in fact I wasn't wanting to do a mountain leader, but instead a lowland leader, you can change it at this point. If you carry on further, you may need to delete and then recreate the record. But at this stage, it's fine to do it in this way. So we'd set a start date. You can either use the calendar on the side here and you can click through to the months, or you can type it in manually. You would set a start time, and then you can set an end date. So this is a Lone Leader training, which would normally be a 2-day course. So we would then set the second day to be a realistic second day. So it'll be the day after. So the end time for this course is going to be, we'll say 4:30. Again, here you can use the clock to set your date and time. Be careful and make sure you do put the right AM or PM. You can also add it by adding a 24-hour clock. So 16:30 will give you 4:30 PM. The total number of days. So for this one here, it's 2 days. If you were setting a course that had, for example, a split course, so a lowland leader, unrealistic that you'd have a split course, but for example, a mountain leader, you may decide to split the course over 2 weekends. And with this, you would use the start date being the beginning of the first split and the end date being the end of the second split. You would then add the number of days here. So for example, for a mountain leader training, you've actually got 6 days. And later on, when we go further through the process, there's a box that you can put the details. You can then outline very, very clearly when the start and end of each of the splits is to make it perfectly clear to the candidate when they're trying to book. The next section is the cost of the course. So I'm going to put a nice unrealistic number. So hopefully no one would book onto this course. So the reason I do that is if I was to create the course now, it would be visible to public, and this is a test and I don't want them necessarily to book. The other thing that you can do to make sure they don't book on a course before you finish making it is switch the visible to public off. This then can be turned on later on once you're ready and once you're happy with it. Or if you've got a closed course, you may not actually want it to be visible to public on the website. So once you're happy with all of the information here, you can click create. So once the course has been created, the first thing that I'd recommend you do is just check through the details that you've added and make sure that they are correct. If not, you can change them at this point. So just check your start date and time, end date and time, and the total number of days, and the price that you wanted is there. I'll talk a little bit more about the prices in a second. So the next section then is the maximum bookings. So for a lowland leader training, the maximum number of spaces on any one course would be 12. And that's with a staffing ratio of at least 1:6. If you've only got one staff member, if the ratio is 1:6, as it is in this case, you would need to set that maximum number to 6. So you can either type it in or you can use the little cursor to increase or decrease the numbers. So it may be that you have 2 members of staff to 6 people, that's absolutely fine, but you do have to make sure there is at least 1 member of staff for each 6 candidates. If, however, you find that the course has a lot of interest, what you can do is you can look at enabling a waiting list. So this would mean that people could express an interest in the course, and if you find your waiting list has increased to the point where it's viable to get an additional member of staff in, and that you are then wanting to look at increasing your maximum number of bookings, you can do that. So you can have 6 to begin with, and then if you decide actually, yes, I have got enough interest, you can change that number to 12 and you can contact the people who've expressed an interest through the waiting list. So next section then is your pricing rules. So we've already set one price when we were creating it at the beginning, and we are now able to edit that. So you could change the title of this price ruling, you could add a description, and if you wish to, you can then add a start and an end date for a particular price and set how many people could be on there. So for example, if you're wanting to do a special offer or something like that, and then you can turn these on and off. You can also add additional prices. So it may be that when you're running a course, you do actually have residential places available, but there are a limited number of these. So you could add an additional cost to your residential pricing that reflects the accommodation that you have. So just as an example, so it's the £1,000 of the original course plus your accommodation price. And you may then want to add a description of what's included in that. So it may be bed and breakfast, it may be that you offer a packed lunch or an evening meal or anything else like that. All of that information can be included in the description. You can then also limit the number of places available of this kind. So if you've only got a single room, you've only got one residential place available, you can set that as 1. Don't forget, any changes you do make to press save and close. So there we go, we now have 2 price options. If you then find actually the room that you thought was available isn't, you can delete that price ruling quite quickly and easily. So the next section then is the location of the course. So when you're doing a lot of courses and you're using the same computer each time, you'll find that it will autofill, which makes life a lot easier. Just make sure when you're autofilling that you are putting the correct address. So if you are running a course, for example, at a different address to your normal provider account address, that you have made those changes.
You can also just search by a postcode, so 240ES, and it will then automatically fill. Be very careful with this. So if you are a provider in a certain area, it will autofill to your provider address. If you are then running your course in a different area, do update the course with the address of where the course is running. It may be the case that you're missing out on bookings because someone is searching for courses in the Lakes, which is where your course will be running. But if you're in the Southeast, for example, they won't be searching for you specifically. Make sure that whatever address the course is running in is the address that's on this particular course.
Okay, so then the next section here are the details about the event. So earlier I mentioned about the split course with the dates. You could add that information here. You can also add information specific to your personal course. So it may be that you want to include the locations for the course. It may be that actually you'd like to add a full program here, ready for the candidate to see exactly what they're getting from you on that particular course. So contact email is really important. This is how the candidate's going to contact you about this particular course. So do make sure that you include that. Okay, so again, as I said, it will autofill. You can then add a contact telephone number. If you have a website, you can include the details of it here. And if you have a booking page to your website, you can also include the details here. So if you're now happy that all of the information on here is correct and it's complete, you can make it live. So before you do anything else, do remember to press save. So here you can see the course has now been created. So at the top box here, you can see the event is not publicly viewable. So this is where you need to go back in and to click on that visible to public box. So at this point, have a really good look through, make sure all of the details are correct. And if you do need to make any changes, under the details tab, where it says edit, you can then change anything on this. So again, once you've made any changes, do remember to press save. So at present, the only people that can actually edit this course are going to be managers. So if you have a staff member that you already know is definitely going to be the member of staff working on this course, you can add them under the staff tab. The settings of a provider account mean that anyone who isn't a manager will not be able to access a course unless they are directly linked to it, so that they've been put as a staff member, either the director or tutor or an additional staff member. So until they are added onto the course, they won't be able to see it. And if you've got bookings on there and D-logs that they need to be looking at, they won't be able to access it until they've been added to the course. So under this page, it's quite simple to do. You choose the person who is going to be the director. And then if you have additional staff members, you're able to add them by just literally clicking on the buttons.
Okay, so you've created your course. Now is the point at which you need to check through it. Make sure that everything is up to date and correct. So points that could impact bookings. At the end of the day, the courses are on CMS and you're wanting people to book on those courses. And there are a number of things that could impact bookings. So are the dates correct? If it's a split course, have you put the details of the split as well? If the dates aren't right, or if the dates don't match the dates that you maybe have on your website, you're going to create confusion, which may in the long run cause people not to book on that particular course. Or they may book on a course that they think they can make when they can't. Also check the prices. If you have your website with one price and CMS with another price, again, it could create confusion. It could lead to candidates not booking onto that course. Is the address correct? As I mentioned before, it auto fills with your provider address. If you're running your course elsewhere, it may be the case that people don't book who may otherwise have wanted to book onto that particular course. Is it live? Have you clicked the visible to public button? Is all the additional information correct? So have you made any mistakes? Also think about things like formatting, spelling, grammar, typos, etc. If there's anything there that makes it look less professional, it may be that people could go elsewhere. So you want to make sure that you've got it to the best quality and that you are 100% happy with it. The other thing to make sure is if you've got links to your website, to your booking systems or anything else like that, do follow the links, check that they are correct and that they do work. So once it's live, do a quick search for the course using the Find a Course function on the website. So if I follow this link here, so if you want to do the same on the PowerPoints, it will take you to the Find a Course page. And as you can see here, there are a number of courses running. You can just check through, is my course there for the dates that I'm interested in? You can actually filter this as well by location, dates, etc. So if you're looking specifically for just your courses, you can filter it until you find the courses that you're interested in. Mine probably won't be on there yet, but I can see other courses that are available today and in the near future. Here's a perfect opportunity just for me to remind you that once you've got your logo on the system, it will help you stand out. So this is our course. We now are able to add a few extras. So the basic details will be on this page here, but you can also add further information and documents, etc. So under the Files tab, you can add documents to your course. So here, if you've got any documents that you do want to add to the course, you can add them. So for example, it may be that you have useful resources that you'd like them to read before they come on the course. It may be that you have your course program. It may be you've got a map to the location or anything else like that. Anything that you think is a useful resource that they will benefit from, you can add there. It may be your booking terms and conditions. It could be a number of resources. You can put multiple sources up on here. So the way you do that is on your computer, you can then just browse for whichever thing it is. So let's for now put the PowerPoint that I'm currently running. Once we've put all of the resources we want here, we would then upload. We can make them public. We can save them to be posted after the event as well. So you would just upload. So there we have our uploaded document. So you can add multiple documents at this point. The next one then is videos. So you can add any video that is a YouTube video onto your course at any point. For example, it may be that you are doing a Lowland Leader course and that you would like to show a video that is relevant to the area that you're in. So it might be that there's a nice little news article that you've seen on YouTube and that you would like to share with them about the environment. If you'd like them to see it before the course or during the course, you can add the link here. So if I go back to my PowerPoint, so if I'm wanting to add a YouTube video, I have a couple of examples here. So for example, let's imagine we're doing a climbing wall instructor. There's a interesting video that we have. So this is just going to take me to YouTube, to the video itself. On this climbing wall instructor course, we're wanting to make sure that our candidates have a little bit of an idea about what belaying is perhaps, and good and bad belaying techniques. So here's a video that Petzl have put together, and it's called The World's Worst Belayer. So what I'm going to do, so I've just copied the title of the video, and if I go back to my course, here I would add the title of the video. I generally would take the exact title it is off YouTube so that I am keeping it consistent. There's the title of my video. If I then go back to YouTube, I'm going to copy the link to that particular video. If I go back to my course, so back here, I can then add the link to that video and press add. So here you can see now that we have our world's worst B-layer video here. That video then is available to the candidates. So we can carry on adding a few videos that maybe are relevant to the course that you're interested in. Once we're happy with that, we then have all of the resources that we need on there. Okay, so the next section we come on to is our inquiries section. So this section allows candidates to inquire through the system. So it means if they have any questions, they can direct them to you through the CMS system. So I'll show you how this one works. I've come back into your provider account and I've clicked on courses, so I can find a course that I know I've already created on the system that I know has an inquiry because I put it there. So here's the Lowland Leader training course, and this is the inquiries tab. So if you click on the inquiries tab, if there are any, it'll show in this list. So you can see which course it's for, and if I open out the list, I can see who's made the inquiry and when they've made it. And click further on it, it opens up the inquiry. So you've got the option to reply to the candidate here. You will also find that when a candidate makes an inquiry, you will also get an email. So the email looks a little bit like this. So it has the details of the course itself. If you carry on scrolling down, you have the details of the attendee, and at the very bottom of the email, you'll have their inquiry. So if I scroll right the way down, you can see here, that's their inquiry. And I'm skipping a bit in the middle. That then allows you either to email them directly through your email systems. So for my one, I'm using Outlook, but whatever email you normally use, you can email them directly, or you can keep everything within the system. So if you click reply to candidate, you can reply directly through the system. You can upload any attachments. So for example, if they've asked about your terms and conditions and you've got a terms and conditions document, you could send that through directly to them. So whatever message you're wanting to put, you'd fill out the reply and that would then be sent directly to the candidates. So once you've been through the inquiries process and the candidate has confirmed that they want to book onto the course and they've given you their details and everything is ready for you to add them onto the system, you would click on the bookings tab. So the first thing that I'd say here, when you're adding a booking, as with adding a staff member in the previous PowerPoints, you are best adding them based on their candidate ID number. So for this example, I'm going to add one of the staff members from the office here. So I'm going to put in Nicola. And so I'm expecting, because I've used the candidate number, I should get the exact right person. If when you get to this point and the name completely doesn't match, you need to go back to the candidate and just check that you've got the correct candidate number for them. If you're searching for their name, as I've mentioned before, you could end up with multiple people with the same name and you could end up with the wrong person being booked onto the course. So do always try and use their candidate ID. So I'm going to add Nicola to this course now. Okay, and I may have more than one candidate that I'm booking at the same time. So I'm also going to try and add another candidate that's been in touch. So I'm using our dummy candidate this time, Ivana. So Ivana Climalot. So she's given me her candidate ID. I'm going to try and add it to the course. However, it seems to be Ivana hasn't yet registered onto the scheme. So at this point, you get back to that candidate and that you'd say, thank you for booking with me, etc. And possibly help them through the process of registering onto the scheme. There is a video on the resources tab that you can use that will show how to register onto a scheme. If they're still struggling and you've not been able to help, you can, of course, direct them to the office, Mountain Training Office, and the customer service team. We're more than happy to help candidates register themselves onto the system. Once they're registered, they can get back in touch with you. You can have another go, and hopefully then they will be able to book onto the course and you can add that booking there. So obviously I know Ivana isn't actually registered, so I'm not going to book her at this point. So you can see there now we've got the two possible outcomes of trying to add somebody onto the system. So if they've registered and if they haven't registered. So once you've got all the bookings onto your system, so you may have 4 or 5 candidates on the list now, what you can do is you can download an attendee list. That can be very useful. So it would download as a CSV document and it would open in Excel. And in that document, you'll have the basic details of the candidates. So if you're wanting to get their address or a telephone number, also their emergency contact details, they will all be available on that document. So it's quite a useful one that you can just download, and if you wanted to print one out or make sure that the course director has a copy of those emergency contact details, they're available there. The other thing as well, when you're adding bookings, is this import. So if you've got a large list of candidates that you're wanting to book onto the system, you can import it. So if you've perhaps got a record of all of your candidates on Excel and that you use that on a regular basis, you could upload the templates. So provided you have these details in this order, this template, you can then upload these people onto that course. So at this stage, I'd probably suggest that it could be a time-saving device if you are used to using your Excel spreadsheet in a certain way. So once you've got your list of candidates, the other thing that you can do is before the course, you're able to check their digital logbook. So this is done here. So you'll have logs and you'll have a number. When you click on that number, it will take you to the logbook of that candidate. So you're only able to see the logbook of a candidate while they are on your course. The only other way that you can see a candidate's logbook would be if they share it with you directly. So for a candidate to share their logbook, they would need to go to their share tab, which would normally be here, and share with you through using your email address. So I'm just going to show you that quickly on my account. You'll find the share button here, so you click on share and send link to candidates. This is the one that you're interested in if you want to have a look at their digital logbook before they are booked on your course. So you would click share here and then you would add the email address of the person that you're wanting to send it to. So in this case, the candidate would be adding your email address, and it does need to be the one that is linked to your Mountain Training accounts. So you can choose to share it for a day, a week, or a month. At the end of that, you will no longer be able to see that D-log. And so the other one obviously is when they're booked onto the course that you use this logs here. If it's an assessment course and they are coming for a reassessment, you will also see an additional document here. So I will talk about that more when I talk about course reporting, but it's useful to just be aware of that. So we've talked about adding the bookings, we've talked about attendee lists, and we've talked about importing lists of attendees. The other thing that you are able to do from here is you can email the candidates directly. So you'd literally just click on email and it would set up an email that would go to all of the candidates. I'm not going to do this now. And then the other thing that you can do is if you've got a closed course, this is where you're able to invite people to your course. So it may be that if you're a school or any other place that has a closed course specifically for certain individuals, once you've created the course, you can invite them to it through this, and you would literally just add their email address and send the invite. That will send them a link to this particular course, and you can go through the booking process there. Once you've got all your bookings onto the system, once you've checked all your candidates, once you've shared all of the resources with them that they need for the course, and once the course has taken place, you're then ready to create your course report. So that would be this tab here. I will be talking about this in the next webinar. So if I come back to my PowerPoint, You can see here now that we've talked about how candidates can inquire through the system and what you would see when you have an inquiry. You can also, we've also spoken about adding bookings. I've recommended obviously you use the candidate ID number. If they're struggling to register on the scheme, I mentioned a video. So you can find it in the provider and course staff area under the resources tab if you scroll down to the bottom of the page. It's also on our YouTube channel. So if they are struggling to register, you can direct them to that. So the link will be available in the PowerPoint if you want to open that and have a look at it afterwards. And if they're still struggling, as I've said, please do send them through to the customer services team who can definitely help them get back onto the system. Our next webinar will be on creating a course report. So it's another step-by-step guide, and we will look at creating the course report, how to enter your results, the differences between the skills courses and the leadership courses, and hopefully by the end of that one, you're all set and good to be able to submit your course reports. So as before, if you need any information from us, the provider and course staff area is on the website. So mountaintraining.org/England or Cymru, depending on which you're based in. So if you've got any questions, please do get in touch with us and we should be able to answer any you have. Look forward to seeing you in the next webinar. Thanks very much.